Well, the family of a Toronto man killed in a Yorkville shooting almost 5 years ago will announce a significant reward today for information leading to an arrest. 37-year-old Matthew Staikos was gunned down while walking in the area of Bay and Yorkville on May 28th of 2018. Police say it was a targeted shooting. Staikos was a tech entrepreneur and the CEO of a messaging app startup with operations in Toronto and Greece. Now, in 2018, police released this surveillance video of a suspect vehicle in the shooting. Police say a man got out of the silver or gray Mercedes and fired several shots at Staikos before getting back into the car. Staikos' family will be making an announcement about a reward coming up any minute now. They previously offered a $250,000 reward. In fact, let's go live to the Toronto Marriott City Centre Hotel where that private reward is being offered. Let's listen live.
One-on-one interviews after. Okay, so without further ado, Dave, and I'm going to bring up the surveillance video that Toronto Police previously released.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming on behalf of the Staikos family. My name is David Perry, and I'm the founding chairman of Investigative Solutions Network, a private investigation and security firm headquartered in Pickering, Ontario. We were retained by the Staikos family to assist them in finding the answers that they long for in terms of who and why somebody murdered their son. The purpose of today's news conference is to announce, on behalf of the Staikos family, their offer of a private family-funded reward of $250,000 for information leading to the arrest of the person or persons responsible for the murder of their son, Matthew. On behalf of the family, I am pleased to acknowledge and thank Sean Sporton, the chair of Toronto Crime Stoppers, for the support he has shown the Staikos family and his commitment to the community safety across our city. The anonymity provided to tipsters through the Crime Stoppers program has proven successful in the past, and it gives us hope with today's announcement we could find some answers. I also want to acknowledge and thank Detective Sergeant Terry Brown and his team at the Toronto Police Homicide Squad for their relentless pursuit of the people responsible for this senseless and cowardly act. I would like to briefly recap the events that led to the tragic loss of Matthew Staikos. On Monday, May 28, 2018, at approximately 11:30 p.m., 37-year-old Matthew Staikos was walking around Yorkville Avenue and Bay Street in downtown Toronto after a late business dinner. He was walking with a business colleague when they passed a silver four-door Mercedes parked on the street. A male exited the passenger side of the vehicle, approached Matthew from behind, and shot him in what appears to be a cold-hearted ambush. The suspect jumped back into the Mercedes on the passenger side, and the vehicle sped off. It was our belief there are people who hold the information and the tip that could solve this complex investigation. And it is the family's hope that by offering this private reward of $250,000, that one of those people will do the right thing and help this grieving family find some semblance of peace by knowing who murdered their son and brother, Matthew. We are asking that anyone who has information that would assist in solving this homicide call Crime Stoppers at 416-222-TIPS. That's 416-222-8477, or by submitting a tip online at 222tips.com. If you submit a tip through Crime Stoppers, your identity will remain anonymous. You can also call the Toronto Police Homicide Squad at 416-808-7400. I'd like to now invite Tamara back to the podium to read a statement on behalf of the Staikos family. Thank you.
Just going to bring up the pictures of Matthew again. Okay, thank you, Dave. This is a statement on behalf of the family of Matthew Staikos. To say that the last 4 years, 8 months, and 10 days have not been easy would be a gross understatement. Every day has been excruciating, insufferable, seemingly unsurvivable. Today is no different, and yet here we are. We don't want to be here. It is incredibly difficult for us to once again be standing in front of the cameras, sharing our pain with the world, but we are desperate. We're desperate because we loved and love and will forever love Matthew so, so much. And losing him in this way without any sense of reason has been torture. Matthew was so beautiful. He was so kind, he was so caring, so smart, so creative, so many wonderful things. An amazing brother, son, uncle. Truly, words cannot adequately describe how magnificent he was and how his murder has shattered our family in so many ways. We've tried for more than 4.5 years to understand why someone would do this. We have pleaded for information. We have shared our hearts, offered money. We have done whatever has been in our means to do so, as I'm sure any family would, and yet here we are. We hope this time will be different. We hope this time that $250,000 will be enough, that our unending grief will be enough, that someone who knows something will want to do the right thing, will want to clear their conscience, will be in some sort of situation where picking up the phone and calling in that tip will make their lives better. Our lives will never be the same. We will never be as joyful, as calm, or as complete as we once were when our sweet, brilliant Matthew was with us and living his beautiful life. But being able to bring Matthew's killer to justice, to understand why this happened, to take the next step forward in this most unfortunate process will, we think, bring us some peace. So please, please, we are begging you, if you know something, say something. Pick up the phone, call police, call Crime Stoppers, call a lawyer, call whoever may be able to help you do the right thing. Bring us that bit of peace, grant us that understanding, allow us to take the next step forward in this excruciating journey. Gail, Nick, and George Staikos. Now I'd like to invite Sean Sporton, Chair of Toronto Crime Stoppers.
Thank you, Tamara, and thank you to the media for attending this morning. Crime Stoppers represents a partnership between the public, the police, and the media that gives citizens in our community a conduit to anonymously provide information about criminality. Simply put, police investigate crimes, the media reports on them, and members of the community share what they can to solve crime and help take criminals off of our streets by calling Crime Stoppers anonymously without the fear of retribution. As with any crime that occurs in our city, Toronto Crime Stoppers is there to promote our platform of anonymity to generate tips from the community. Today, we are asking our community to help provide information on the murder of Matthew Staikos. At Crime Stoppers, we believe community safety is a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play in making our community safer and bringing some sense of peace to victims and survivors of traumatic events. Every year, dozens of families across Toronto are inflicted with the indescribable pain of losing a loved one to a senseless murder, and they are often left desperate for answers. While investigators work hard to solve these crimes and canvass community members for information, we understand that for some citizens, various barriers prohibit them from sharing critical information. For this reason, we are pleased to provide a platform for all members of the community to submit their information anonymously by calling Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477 or by leaving a tip online at 222tips.com. This means we do not need your name. We do not need you to testify in court. We just need your information to help solve criminality and bring needed closure to victims of crime and their loved ones. Our program's proven success is a testament of the effectiveness it has on preventing crime and solving crime. Last year alone, Toronto Crime Stoppers received more than 6,000 tips and over 10,000 follow-up tips, resulting in more than 200 arrests and 880 charges being laid. These tips also assisted in helping solve 7 homicide cases and 89 illegal firearms being taken off our streets. It is clear Toronto Crime Stoppers program works, and together we are making a difference. I would like to reinforce the following message. Toronto Crime Stoppers will always guarantee your anonymity, and you will never be required to testify in court. So we urge you, if you have any information that can assist investigators with this case, come forward, speak up, break the code of silence, and by doing so, you'll be making a difference in the safety of your community. I will conclude by once again reminding everybody that community safety is a shared responsibility. Together, we can create a safer city and bring some sense of peace to the family of Matthew Staikos. Toronto Crime Stoppers is committed in our efforts to mobilize the community to see it, say it, stop it for a safer Toronto. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. So we'll open up the floor now to some questions, just keeping in mind that investigators are limited in what they can say about this active homicide investigation, and that the family is not speaking at the podium now, but that Matthew's brother George will do some one-on-one interviews after the news conference. That said, anybody have any questions?
Initially, there were a few answers about just who would have done this, why they would have done this. I know that one of the family was just as confused about that as investigators. Have there been any clues in terms of the motive here?
Detective Sergeant Terry Brown.
Good morning, everyone. Obviously, we're almost 5 years into this and we're still investigating it. We have not identified the person or persons responsible. As far as the motive goes, that is something that still is not clear to us right now. We've looked deep into the background of Matthew Staikos. He was exactly as being described, loved by all, a successful businessman, in a loving relationship, all new job opportunities that were on the horizon. So the reason this happened to him is still dumbfounding to us. We did say at the time this occurred that it was, in our mind, a targeted homicide. We still say it's a targeted homicide because the person that took his life purposely took his life. We still don't know 100% whether Matthew Staikos was the intended target or not. When I say the intended target, that the shooter perhaps mistakenly shoot the wrong person. And so that may be a piece of information that we don't have that we're looking to seek right now, which is why we make these appeals every so often, just to remind people that just because people are gone, they're never forgotten. So with regards to the motive, I cannot tell you with absolute certainty why this happened, but if someone out there has that information and they haven't shared it yet, we'd certainly like to hear from you.
There was someone who did know who did this, and that would be the driver of that car. Has that person surfaced at all over the last number of years?
So I won't get into the specifics of who we've spoken to, but obviously the driver in this situation, as in every situation, is deemed to be a party to the offense. So they're complicit. Even though they didn't pull the trigger, if they acted in concert with this event, then they were equally responsible for the death. Perhaps they didn't know this was going to happen, perhaps they did know. But we need to hear from that person firsthand on what unfolded that day, what they knew or didn't know, because until we have that information, we can only assume that they were in fact a party to the incident that happened on that day. There's no doubt in our mind that whoever did this, it was a planned and deliberate incident. What I mean by that, there were steps that were taken by the shooter to look in the general area, to be around that area for a period of time. It wasn't something that happened in our opinion, off the cuff, where they just happened to come across Mr. Staikos and decided to do what they did. I won't get into why we know those things, but we do have that information, so we do believe that whoever decided to take his life planned to do so for a period of time before this happened.
Can you speak to staff, can you speak to the dedication that a homicide team puts in towards every investigation? And just because they're not solved doesn't mean it's not from lack of effort. Sometimes there's just not enough evidence, and this is perhaps why you're making this appeal. Can you just address that?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. That's obviously a very good question from you, who actually worked in our office for a long period of time. Some homicides are easy to investigate because all the information is right there before us. Others are extremely, extremely difficult. They take a lot of legwork, a lot of boots in the ground, a lot of digging into the background of individuals, and that is time-consuming. I can tell you on this investigation alone, and that is not unique to this investigation, I'm telling you because we're speaking about this one, thousands of hours of personnel hours have been placed into this investigation. It doesn't end, it hasn't ended, it won't end until the persons responsible are identified and brought to justice. So, yes, Steve, there is a lot of hours that go in at the forefront when we're uploading, but that continues on to this very day. I can tell you, as the lead investigator, I still continue to follow up on things about this investigation. I'm in touch with the family often and always. Obviously, they hurt, as other victims' families do. And this is the other point. There are a lot of Staikos families out there that find themselves in a similar situation. We are here to discuss about this incident, obviously, but the homicide squad takes every one of these homicides seriously, and we investigate each and every one of them to the fullest.
What about a vehicle? You located the vehicle.
So the vehicle to us is one of the crucial components that we have and continue to look into. We now investigatively believe that it is probably or likely a 2017 or 2018 Mercedes C43 series, or possibly a 2016 C45 or 450. It would have been silver, titanium in color. We have not, to this point, located the vehicle, but everything related to that vehicle is what we have a great interest in. Where did it come from? Was it involved in other crimes? Was it dumped somewhere else? Has it been burned? Have people seen this vehicle and didn't know what it was? So if you have seen that vehicle, and I know we're dating ourselves back to 2018 and never contacted us, but thought, oh my goodness, I did see that vehicle and found it strange. I never really said it to the police. Please report that. Every little bit of information is important to us in trying to solve this.
Obviously, you got the plates and linked it back somewhere, and that went nowhere.
Again, I'm not going to get into plates or anything else like that. The vehicle in question is what's important to us. Thank you.
Can I just ask about the reward itself? I know there was a reward of $250,000 promised in 2021, I believe. This is on top of that? This is separate? This is in a... Sure.
So that reward expired. This reward also has an expiration date of 1 year. So that's why we say, if you know something, say something now. Now is the time. Don't let it pass you by. What also makes this different is there's been a lot of planning and coordination that has gone into this announcement. We're very grateful for the support of Detective Sergeant Terry Brown, who's here today, of Toronto Crime Stoppers Chair Sean Sporton, who is here today. There's a lot of media here today. We are, number one, grateful for all of you for disseminating this message, because we know, you know, Linda, I know, most people up here know that with the passage of time, circumstances change. Allegiances change, loyalties change, maybe somebody needs money that they didn't need before, maybe they're in fear for their safety, and maybe $250,000 could help them a lot. Now is the time to step up. Maybe 2 years ago when that reward was announced, that wasn't the right time, they were comfortable. Maybe people are feeling uncomfortable right now. Maybe it's their conscience. Maybe it's seeing the grief that the Staikos family continues to live with. And for whatever reason, we're very hopeful that now will be the right time for somebody to step forward and do the right thing, whatever their motivations are. Any other questions? Okay, that concludes the news conference then. I'm here to help you with it, whatever.
All right, we didn't hear
you want.
directly from the family of Matthew Staikos, but we did hear a statement from them as they've re-announced a $250,000 reward for any information leading up to the arrest or finding of the person who's responsible for Matthew Staikos' death. He was killed in May of 2018 in Yorkville. Of course, they identified a vehicle at the time they were interested in, but we heard from Detective Sergeant Terry Brown that it's still, at this point, almost 5 years in, motive still not clear, no arrests for a person, what they're describing as a targeted homicide, but they do believe that somebody has some information, someone has a tip that's available. This is a private reward, and they are asking for people to do the right thing and try to help that Staikos family.